Here, I've done this one in strips. The one tonight I'm going to do just in one piece of fabric. So you can make your drawstring bag as big or as small as you like. Now, the only thing I would say, if you're making it very small, it won't fit over the free arm of your sewing machine. So with your sewing machine, whatever make you have, you've probably got an accessory tray which fits on the front of it. And when you take that off, it leaves a free arm. So you've got the sort of an area or an arm that sits out about that big. And when you're top stitching the top of your bags that you make or pouches or whatever, it's easier to be able to put your bag like this one, put my finger in there, and you slide that over the free arm so that you can stitch around here, which is what we will be doing. So the smaller ones, you won't be able to get it on there. It can still be done, but you have to stitch, you have to open it up and then just stitch around here and keep turning it round. So this one was a little bit bigger. The instructions, a PDF is in the Sew with Trisha group files. And I think that one I made something like 8 inches wide by 16 inches long, because whatever size you make, there's no seam at the bottom. So it's a long piece of fabric which we fold. So, as I say, this one was strips. If you're making it with strips or patchwork, you just stitch them together as you normally would do along the length so that you've got a long strip of fabric, and we actually fold that to construct the bag. So that's one that I've done. And the other thing is at the sides, it's nice and neat. Let's get my finger in there. Okay. So nice and neat at the sides, no raw edges. I have actually stitched down here because I prefer it to. You've done that before, have you? Yeah. So they're nice and neat there so that we can thread our drawstrings through. You can, if you want to, only put one thread through so that it just draws up at one side, like that, say. Whoops, like that. Or, as I prefer, we have two, and then it just draws up so easily, and you can pull the top, and it opens up to French General, Janet. Oh, excuse me. French General. I think I've got the tiniest bit of a cold, nothing to worry about, from my flu jab. So get your flu jab, because apparently it's going to be a very bad winter for the flu. Okay, so shall we start? I've used a bit of this because I thought I'm going to do a Christmassy one. You can make a drawstring bag, a lined drawstring bag, for whatever celebration you would like. So here again, I've just got a plain white lining fabric, and I've got my main piece in that Christmassy fabric with snowflakes on. And I cut it from a 1/2 metre, so it's about 20 inches. And I think this one was about 8 inches wide, but it means that my bag is going to be this big, okay? And it's as simple as that. So let me pop this down onto the machine, onto the needle bed, and then you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing. So I have moved on to a different machine today, purely because I have a free arm that I can get to. So there is my fabric and my outer fabric, and I'm going to put the lining fabric on top so that they are right sides together. Okay, nice and easy. Let me turn it that way so you can see a bit better. So right sides together. Just make sure. Right sides together. And then we are lining up the top, the short edges. When I say the top, the short edge, and we're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam down this short edge. And we're actually going to do it at the other end as well. So let's just pop that under the machine. Let's just make sure I've got, oh yes, I'll have enough thread. So we're stitching along the short edge, both lining and outer fabric, right sides together. And then I'm going to swivel around to the other end, just line those edges up too, and we will stitch along here too. So straight along, 1/4 inch seam allowance, but at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter what seam allowance you use on this particular project. Okay, the next thing we are going to do, keeping it with our right sides on the inside, I'm going to move this along, can you see, so that I have got the lining fabric on top. So the fold, it's a tube, so the fold, the fabric is going to have the outer fabric on top of each other and the lining fabric on top as well. So we will line up that top edge here. Let's just come down a little bit more, I think. Line up that top edge. And we can put a pin there. Now, what I did do with mine, I did actually take it to the ironing board and open out this seam. Yes, it is much better to open that seam out like I do there. Let's just flip that over to the other side and we'll do exactly the same with this side too. So just open that seam up, run your finger down it or run the iron down, line up these two seams here, and we are going to measure and pop a pin. Now, if it's a small bag, I would only do 3/4 inch down here, but for a larger bag like this, I'm going to put a pin 1 inch to the side of that seam, just there, and also 1 inch to the other side. Put that there, and then we can just put that pin, whoops, pop that through and that through, and then we'll do exactly the same at the other side. So let's just make sure that seam lines up, because this edge that I've opened up and moved there is going to be the very top of our drawstring bag. So I'm going to put a pin at 1 inch down there, and we'll put a pin at 1 inch down there. So you can see where my pins are, it's 1 inch either side. Now we're going to stitch all the way down where we can from the pin down to the fold, and where we can't, let's just push that down, take the pin out. Okay, and down a little bit there, whoops. Oh, I don't want to go on that one, I want to go on that one. There we go. And when I start off, I'm doing a 1/4 inch again. I'm just going to reverse there, just to hold that, and then stitch all the way down to the bottom. And when I get to the bottom, I'm going to reverse there as well. That's the only thing I don't like about this machine, that it goes slowly when I reverse. I like a bit of a faster reverse. Now with this side, I am going to stitch from the fold, which I don't usually do that. So to make sure, I push my finger down and press on the fold so that I know this is all lined up. I don't want excess fabric to create a bulge there. So I'm putting my finger all the way down to flatten it out. And again, we'll reverse at that end as well. And we're going to sew up to the pin. So we won't go any further than the pin. One more. That's it. Take that out. And then we'll just reverse at that little bit as well. Okay, and while we're on this side, we may as well start at the pin just here. Right, there we go. So we're at the pin. So we'll stitch forwards and backwards, and then stitch all the way down to the bottom. Now, the reason that I like to stitch towards the fold is that the folded edge, the fabric will smooth itself out down to the fold, and there will be no issues. The case with stitching from the fold upwards, if I haven't got that fold part right at the bottom, I can end up with an excess fabric before I get to the top here. So as I said, run your finger down that side to make sure the fold is completely central. So a little bit of stitching, 2 or 3 stitches, whoops, and my needle has unthreaded. So let's just, oh my goodness, right, let's thread her up. Don't know why it did that. And then down we go, up and around, in there, and we are, let's see, we're threaded. Let's see, as long as I don't pull it out. That's it, we're threaded. Okay, so where was I going? I was going from the bottom here, wasn't I? That's it. Okay, so we'll stitch and reverse, and we'll carry on stitching up to this pin as well. So I'm getting close to the pin. There we go. Take it out and then just do a little reverse. There we go. Right, so I am going to trim these little bits of thread away, and just there, and then this side too, and there. Whoops, don't nick your fabric like I've just done there, but never mind, we'll be fine. Clip that off, clip that off. Okay. So you're thinking, are you not? She hasn't left a gap to turn it through. However, we have a gap here, which is going to be our channels for our ribbon, and they just happen to be big enough. So I'm going to put my finger in through that hole, in through that channel hole, and I'm going to pull my fabric through. And actually, it's surprisingly easy for the fabric to come through. So once you've got your outer fabric or your lining fabric, whichever is first, you can just pull that all the way through. And whoops, we have got the outer on the outside and also the lining. So there we have 2 pieces together. What I hadn't got was my lovely little paintbrush. Let's just push that all the way down. So we'll push all the fabric down to the corners. And you'll notice I haven't trimmed the corners. I haven't cut those corner points off because I want the strength to be there. I don't want to weaken the bottom of our drawstring bag. So that's got all the fabric there. We did the reverse stitching, so it's going to be nice and safe and not going to come undone. Sometimes if you trim those corners off, it could start opening up and then the contents will go out. Right, so I would also just take this to the ironing board and give it a press. But the most important bit here is this part here. So this is our opening. Let's just take those bits of thread away. And if we just press that in, and I can just nail press that along there. And similarly, this edge as well, just fold that in and nail press it, because what we're going to do very simply, and you don't have to do this point if you don't want to, but I think it's nicer, is we're just going to stitch just along that little opening. So I'm going to take it over to the needle and just pull one side back, and you don't need to go right to the very bottom of this seam, this piece that we've turned back, but just, and I'm not even trimming off, whoops, I'm not even reversing, because I'm just clip those little bits off, but it just makes it that little bit neater, which is going to be around the top edge. And then we can flip this over so that we can then fold that one back, and we'll stitch this little seam down here. So it's not through the top, just open it out like that, and then get the needle on the edge, or just in probably 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, just so we're doing a little seam, which will be the opening of where our ribbon is inserted. So let's just take that little bit of thread away. There we go. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So I haven't folded that in yet, but just open that out. We can fold that bit back on this side and then fold this in on the other side. Now you can see there, it is actually starting to come apart. So it is much better idea to actually stitch that. Otherwise it could start coming open. But by stitching along that edge there, and I'm going to do that little bit first so that nothing more happens. So folding that just to the seam, and let's see, let's start just there. And so just along that outside edge, and that's holding that down nicely into the seam allowance. And we can just trim those threads away, and we can take that thread just there as well. And then flip it over, and we'll do exactly the same on this other side here. So I can just see the needle is just going down there. There we go. Okay, so clip that little bit off. Clip this bit off too. And there we are. Okay, so we're nice and neat on each of those edges. Right, what we do now is we are going to push the lining into, so I'll get my fingers into the ends of the lining here and push it into the bag. And what I'm doing, I'm stretching my fingers out like this into the corners, so it pushes the corners of the bag into the bottom of the drawstring bag. So that's gone down there, and that's gone down there. And then when you sort of neaten that up, what you'll find is that the top of the bag is there. So the seam that we did, those short edges at the beginning, that is the top of your drawstring. And I would most definitely go to the ironing board and give that a press along that top edge, whereas I am just going to, there we are, I'm just going to neaten that out with my nails, and then again just push that fabric in so that's nice and smooth down there, and line those two up. Okay, so you can see at the sides here we have an opening. So what we're going to do here is just below, so let's just hold that there, that's all tucked in, you can see that. We'll line those up, and we can put a pin just here, so just at the bottom of where our gap is on both sides. Okay, that one looks, what have I done there? We'll tuck that in, that's better. Just push that bit of it. This is where a little bit of ironing does it a whole lot better. Okay, so we've got our 2 channels there as well, but we can put a pin just here, just at the bottom. And we will be taking them out, but that is where we are going to stitch. So I would, as I haven't pressed this, I am going to put a pin just there, and I am going to put a pin just here, because that will give me a much better, it will hold those fabrics in place. Right, so this is where you take off any extension table or accessory tray. And this is where we then pop our, actually what I ought to do is just push that like that. We pop it over our free arm. And it is going to be about an inch down from the top, from this top edge. So if you want to make a mark, now that I've got that over there, I'm going to take that out. If you want to make a mark as to where your stitching is going to go, by all means do. But I am just going to wing it. So I am looking here and I'm thinking, there we go. So I am looking at, let's just make sure that goes over there. I'm looking at the distance from here to my foot and trying to keep that even. Now I could watch, and I'm just watching the distance from that needle plate, and it's not too far to go, because when we get round to this side, we should be able to meet in the right place there. So then we can hold that. Okay. And as it's coming round, if you want to eyeball, I've gone a little bit crooked there, but okay. And then I'm meeting up where my stitching started. Okay. So we can cut that thread off. And that little bit on the inside. And there, as you can see, I've got my stitching on the inside, and we've made our channels. Now, the other thing I like to do, you don't have to, but you could stitch along the top. I've stitched along the top on the other one, and I quite like that. So we can start along here again, and I'm probably going about 1/8 of an inch from that top edge. And I'll just stitch along there. It gives another added dimension, but we're only stitching, we're not stitching the whole way in one go. We're going to start just the other side. There we are. Just so that we stop when we get to the end of the channel. There we are. And so that we've got 2 open channels, we don't obviously want it to be joined. So let's just trim that, trim where, and just here as well, because this is going to be at the top of the bag and you don't want little bits of thread hanging off there. There we go. So nice and neat. Our little bag here. So all I need to do now, I've cut myself 2 pieces of, let's see what time we are. Oh, not bad at all. Cut myself 2 pieces of ribbon. I have actually got a bodkin. So the way we get, there we are. I've just threaded that through. So I'm just going to pop this in one side, like so. Coming out the other side, and then we're going to go all the way around. We're going to come back down the other side, like that. Okay, so there is my thread or my ribbon at one end. So while I'm here, because I don't really want it to come out while I'm popping the other side in. So if you do want, that's it, we can trim that off. If you do want just one side, just thread it in like that, draw it up, and there's your drawstring bag. But it draws much nicer if you have one coming from the other side as well. So I've got myself another piece of ribbon. I would do it twice the width of your bag, the length of your ribbon, plus about 6 inches. And you need 2 pieces. So because my ribbon's coming out this side, this one I'm going to start at this other side, the opposite side. So again, thread that through like that, pull it, and then go round to the other side, push it through, or use a safety pin if you've got a safety pin. That's the more usual way to do these things. Take your 2 ends and give that a big knot, and finished. Let's just trim that off, and then you can pull those together, and you've got a really nice, neat top to your drawstring lined bag. And then all you need to do is put your fingers in there, all beautifully lined, all neat, no raw edges and no seams. There we are. No seams at the bottom or the sides. Okay. So there was one other little thing I was going to show you. So that's quite a decent size bag. Let's pop that out of the way for a minute. And I haven't done it on that one, but I was just thinking about, and I did it just before we started, but there was just a nice little way, let's pop this in here, of finishing off the ends of your ribbon or string. Now let's just see where I have put that. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, there it is. I had a circle. And I have got a circle. Okay, so if you wanted to finish off the drawstrings with something like this, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's just a nice little end to it. I thought I'd show you how to do it, and it is so, so easy. So I have a circle, which is not a perfect circle, because I've only got that little bit of fabric left at the end there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that in half. Okay, and give that a little finger press along the center. So this is just one circle, and the circle is, what is it? It's about 3 inches in diameter. So we would take our end of our thread, and at the center of the curved edge, I'm just going to, let's take that down a little bit. I'm just going to stitch. Doesn't take a lot of fabric at all, Barbara, no. So to start off with, I'm just going to stitch to anchor the ribbon about centrally. So I'll just reverse across there. Okay, so yeah, that is caught down. We don't want it coming out. So you wouldn't want to part with it, wouldn't you, Virginia? Oh, right. So I've just anchored that down. Now I'm going to fold this curved edge about 1/3 so that it lines up with the curved edge there. And then I'm going to fold this one in as well. Not quite the whole way. So there's a little gap at that side as well. But hold that together. And then, oh, let's put a pin in there. Ah, look at that. This is what I do when I use pins. Stick it in me, hey. But make sure these curved edges are roughly in line. And now I'm going to stitch around that curved edge. Now I'm going to stitch about 1/4 inch in. I am going to reverse at that end as well because we don't want it to come undone. Okay. All the way around to the other edge. And a bit of reverse. Okay, and I suppose I didn't do, but you could trim a little bit of this off because there is quite a seam allowance there. Okay, so I've stitched all the way around there, and then all we need to do is turn it to the right side. So just pull that over. This is why the ribbon needs to be anchored so that we don't, as we're turning it, we don't pull it out, but just, that's it, pull it over, pull that over, and there we have, I think we could tuck that, oh, let's get some scissors here, just push that out a little bit. Probably hadn't got my ribbon totally central, but you've got a little flower, like, I think we've done something similar before, but not perhaps in that same way. But I've done one at this end as well. But just an easy way of decorating the ends of your ribbon. And how quick and simple could that be? Okay, easy peasy. There we go. Right, so let's just grab these. They might have, you know, if that was hanging off of there, a little bit better than the knotted end. These are a bit long, so I might reduce those. But you see, having that little hanging at the side, I think it's quite sweet. Yeah, so this is what we have been making this evening. Here is the drawstring bag, which is lined. And just draw it up like that. There is one, you could tie that again as well. Or I've got a stripy one as well. So with the stripy one, I just use some strips. So this would be quite nice if you've got jelly roll strips. It is, Caroline, thank you. If you've got jelly roll strips, because I think I might have done these 2 inches wide, but you could use jelly roll strips and make a bag. And you'd only need half of a jelly roll strip to get one this size, because this is probably about 10 inches down. And you just use, however wide you want it to be, use as many strips as you want. But they're just nice little additional things to a present. You could put a lovely bit of moisturizer, bath gel, shower gel. But it is just, oh, thank you, everybody. It's something that somebody asked for the other week, and I thought, yeah, we can do that. So you've got some bells. Oh, you could put bells, yes. That would be good as well. Okay, what time are... Oh, not bad at all. But I am getting colder, I must admit. So, yeah, there's our little drawstring bag. And I know there's another one. I will put it on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it there, as well as it will be on this page. So on YouTube, it will show you, or just be a little refresher. But for those of you in the Sew with Trisha group, there is a PDF which shows you written in on the Word document, so that you can look back at that if you've forgotten how to do it. But by all means, do what I did with I made another little pouch yesterday, didn't I? With an orphan block. Use your orphan blocks. Put 2 together and stitch around the edge rather than having a continuous strip. And you've got exactly the same thing. Chocolate Beverly, absolutely. Wouldn't somebody love that? Full of chocolates. I know 2 little boys that would. And slipper bags, absolutely, slipper bags. So, slipper, shoes. Perhaps you've got some special shoes. Perhaps wedding shoes could go in there and keep them all nice and clean and dust-free, or anything basically. But just a handy little thing to do. Okay. Now, tomorrow evening I shall be... Let's just see if I can turn that. Can you see? Oh, it's at the other side. That's the one we shall be doing, over there. Chocolate coins, yes. Smaller one, perhaps. But if that was full of chocolate coins, Patricia, I'd be eating them forever, wouldn't I? So we're doing the Turning Star block tomorrow evening. And I'm looking forward to doing that because it's a lovely little, well, I say little block. It actually is a 15-inch block. I've popped a border around that one, so it makes it a little bit bigger, ideal for a cushion cover or a centerpiece for the table. And I think you'll enjoy seeing that as well. There will be a PDF again. So already this month, we're not quite halfway through. There must be 5 or 6 PDFs for those, so with Trisha members. So, getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Knowing exactly what we're going to be doing. And perhaps I've got some other little tricks or some other ideas. Thank you, Margaret. I've got some other little ideas that I'm dying to try out. And that will be tomorrow, hopefully. So, Beverly's looking forward to tomorrow evening's project. I'm looking forward to making it. I'm going to have so many of these bits and pieces. Well, I've got a school Christmas fair coming up, and I think it's raining already. I think they are going to get a few. Okay. Before it starts to pour, it is just starting to rain here. I don't know if you can hear it going tip-tap, but it is. And I shall love you and leave you, and just thank you for joining me tonight on this not so good evening. But it's always... I will get a little bit warmer now that I've been talking and chatting with you all. And thank you, Joanne. And thank you, everybody, for joining me. So if you'd like to like and share the video, I know Vanessa's watching, like and share, it would be fantastic. And that way, more people will get to see it. So I will see you tomorrow evening. Take care and enjoy this evening. Bye for now.